Hey guys, Alex Vornoff again. As some of you know, I've started working on the story for a new web series on Spec. Like a lot of people, I have a habit of assembling playlists that get me in the groove for different projects. For fun, I'll be doing a series of videos about some of the bands on that playlist that may be going under your radar, their history, discography, that sort of thing. My hope is that it will encourage a few of you to check out these bands for yourself. So that in mind, let's start with my top band on the playlist, the Oz metal legends, Dungeon. There are four things I know for certain about Australia. They have some really weird and unique fauna, some truly awesome beaches, Tony Abbott is a naturally occurring Guy Ritchie movie villain, and Aussies have a kick-ass metal scene. Which brings us neatly to Dungeon. Dungeon formed in 1989 in Broken Hill, Australia. What followed was a carousel of lineup changes, not in itself unusual in the world of rock and metal, before the band moved out to Sydney. Founding member Lord Tim was originally just the guitarist, but also took up vocal duties when a full-time singer couldn't be found. Their original batch of demos were distributed in Japan under the title Demolition, and sold over 5,500 copies when, for some unfathomable reason, the distributor TDK Core Records just up and decided they didn't want to be involved in rock and metal anymore. The group took time to build up their savings and lick their wounds from the whole debacle before signing to Warhead Records to create their proper debut album, Resurrection. To give you an idea of how crazy a time this was, the album wasn't released until 1999. 10 years of sticking to their guns. Resurrection is archetypal power metal with big, catchy choruses, more hooks than a meat locker, and a high degree of musicianship. It's unapologetically energetic delivery of meaty, melodic metal goodness, heralded an 18-month-long tour and various festivals. After the tour finished, Warhead Records soon folded. However, Tim had been thinking ahead and investing in a home studio. Following another lineup change, they tested everything out with a demo tape of covers before beginning the recording process of what some call the band's definitive album, A Rise to Power, which would be released in 2002. They signed with Metal Warriors and got a distribution deal with Limb Music Productions. A Rise to Power has a satisfyingly striking mix of technical brilliance with moments of restraint, and some of the best production you'll hear on an album this side of Typo Negative. The title track is still one of my favorite metal epics to this day. Yet another lineup change followed, and 2 years later, the band put out the follow-up album, One Step Beyond. This is the album that got me into the band, starting with the opening track, the anthem of ass-kicking manliness, The Power Within. With finger-twisting riffs and punishing production work, it contains some of the heaviest material the band ever produced while still retaining their melodic sensibilities. Another standout is possibly the most peerless pirate metal track ever produced, Tirano del Mar, which boasts a mind-blowing 220 individual instrument and vocal tracks. The tour for One Step Beyond was a huge success, including a leg of which wherein they were supporting Megadeth on tour, having been handpicked by Dave Mustaine himself. There was one downside. The band had parted ways with their management and were running the tour themselves. The stress of it eventually got to them, and after a lot of talking, it was clear that another lineup change was impossible to avoid. Lord Tim decided at this point that he had taken Dungeon as far as it could go. He persuaded the band to help him record material for a farewell album before they split up. The band played their last show together on December 11th, 2005 at the Gaelic Theatre in Sydney. The band's posthumous swan song album, The Final Chapter, was released in October the following year. The album is a career thesis statement of majestic melodies and defiant, upbeat attitude. The epic title track plays out like a retrospective of Dungeon's story. Today, Lord Tim carries on the legacy of Dungeon with his solo project turned full-time band, Lord, which you should also check out because it rules. As a final note, I'm about to reveal just how much of an unbelievable nerd I really am. The album cover for One Step Beyond is pretty badass. but I also found out that that piece of art originally appeared in Dungeon Magazine number 83 back in 2000. I would say this is too much of a coincidence, but I only have speculation at this point. If anyone out there watching this knows if Lord Tim was a subscriber to Dungeon Magazine back in the day, Tim, if you're watching this, please tell me. I have to know. Was this intentional? Like and favorite, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you later.